As we're aware, traffic patterns have changed in a big way in 2020. And ultimately, those changes are going to affect how we think about planning for 2021. We've had a lot of studies and data coming out about those changes in traffic patterns. One of the major players that I want to call out is Geopath. So they've been able to provide us a lot of data around those changes, but also they are the agency that updates impressions on an annual basis for billboards in the US. So they have also come up with a methodology update that will affect how we think about planning going into 2021 as well. The last trend that we're seeing is programmatic out of home. We have done some campaigns internally in 2020, and we will see that grow as we move forward into 2021. Geopath has given us this data. So they showed us the average trips nationally taken in 2020. This is no surprise to us, right? We knew that traffic took a hit. We just didn't know how much. The gray line here indicates that in Q2, traffic took a huge dip, right? Again, no surprise. As the weather started to warm up and people were getting a little antsy, they were tired of staying home inside, we do see average trips increase. And then we see a little dip, that's the second wave of COVID. And then we kind of see average trips, I would say average out. Still nowhere near the projected numbers from 2019. Please keep this in mind as we talk about transit as well, because this paints a very clear picture of exactly how people's patterns have shifted, and it applies to transit as well. So we know that the average amount of trips have changed. By leveraging location data from mobile devices, Geopath has also been able to show us kind of the shift of people's actual traffic patterns. New York is a really good example to show you. The red is a decrease in daytime population, and the green is an increase in daytime population. So you can kind of see during the day, people have shifted out of like downtown into suburbs, right? They're staying home. Kids are home learning virtually, stay-at-home orders. People don't want to leave the house as much. This data, along with a study from INRIX, which shows us that there was an increase of travel speeds in MSAs, so those smaller areas around inner cities has increased. We can come to the conclusion that traffic patterns have shifted, right? People are taking shorter trips on secondary roads. This is important information as we look to run campaigns in your markets. I do want to kind of caveat and say that all markets are not created equal. We are seeing this pattern in larger markets. In some smaller markets, we're seeing that travel patterns and traffic has increased to pre-COVID levels. So we have the tools internally to double check, see what's going on in the market, and then obviously recommend units on highways or neighborhood units, depending on what's going on in that market. Like I said before, transit follows a very similar pattern to that average trips taken chart that we had looked at previously. With the initial stay-at-home orders, we saw nationally that ridership dipped about 40%. And then as we got into Q2, it was reported that ridership was down 76%. So again, no surprise there. You know, people don't want to travel on public transportation. And in particular, we wanted to call out Philadelphia. So SEPTA reported that in the initial months of COVID, ridership was down 90%. It's huge. We did take a look at overall ridership for the year of 2020, and SEPTA reported that they did, ridership bounced back and they were down 27%, which is a better story. So as we consider transit, we have been using the American Public Transportation Association. They have like a real-time tool that we can check markets and see what ridership looks like in those markets and what those trends look like to influence our campaigns. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. The main point here I want to get across about GeoPath is they have incorporated more mobile data points into their impressions. So what does that mean? Impressions are more accurate than ever. With renewals in particular, we are double checking these new GeoPath impression numbers just to make sure there was no significant change. If there was, then you'll be hearing from your AE. But I want to make it clear that the change in reported impressions, it's a result of enhanced methodology, right? It has nothing to do with an actual change in eyeballs or traffic. So again, when we think about renewals, this is something that will definitely affect our campaigns as we move into 2020 or 2021. And if we do see a significant change, we will absolutely let you know. So the last trend from 2020 is programmatic out of home. So this technology has been developing for several years. Vendors have been creating infrastructure so that they can buy and sell inventory in a programmatic way. What does that mean, right? It means that you can buy not only digital billboards, but now you can buy gym screens, taxi cabs, supermarket screens, digital kiosks, digital transit shelters. All of that is included in this pool. It's basically screens that are out of the home, right? Why programmatic? Well, with programmatic, there is some more advanced targeting. You can align your digital targeting with programmatic out of home. So you create that, you can kind of create that synergy there. Programmatic also allows you to capture device IDs. So this is really important. This is very different than a traditional out-of-home buy. You can capture device IDs of people who have actually seen your billboard, and then you can create a retargeting campaign based off of that information. So that's kind of the key difference, right, between traditional and programmatic out-of-home. As we look into 2021 and even further into 2022, we are going to see an increase in programmatic. eMarketer tells us that advertisers are going to take their digital out of home, like traditional digital out of home spending, and they're going to allocate it to programmatic out of home. So like any good media buyer, we created a pros and cons list here just to give you an idea of when would I consider this, right? So some pros for programmatic out of home. You have flexible inventory. There are no long-term commitments. So great for 2020 where we had to start and stop campaigns. And again, you can create synergy between your digital efforts. You have, you could do a more targeted, you have a more targeted audience. Some cons for programmatic. We cannot do directional messaging because it is programmatic. We cannot cherry pick locations. Want to make that clear. Cannot cherry pick locations. Traditional out of home, we can do that. Here, we don't know what units we run on until the campaign ends. So that there, want to make that very clear. You can choose vendors that you can run on, but you absolutely cannot pick and choose locations. One of the other things is, depending on your geo, some geos just don't have enough inventory available. So we would either need to open up that geo, or we would have to consider a direct buy with a vendor if there just wasn't enough scale. As we look forward into 2021, we will continue to monitor markets and check what those traffic patterns are, what it looks like. Are we getting back to pre-COVID? Are we still down? Obviously, base our recommendations around that data. We will double check renewals on units to make sure that impression levels haven't changed significantly. And we will continue running programmatic internally. And we, if you think that programmatic may be a good fit for you, absolutely reach out to your AE. We can have a conversation and we can determine whether or not it makes sense for you.